The film begins with an engineer named Jason, who is standing hunting from the sea, and he had spent days trying to catch a fish, but he did not catch anything. And finally he catches a fish, but it is very small. He throws it back into the water, and he sees that there is a storm in the air approaching, so he decides to get in his car and return home. And indeed, after a while the rain starts to fall, and all the residents return to their homes. Jason arrives at the garage and tries to open it, but the strange thing is that the garage door was not opening, so he has to leave the car outside the house and enters to deliver his dog Cassie D, and finds messages he received from people asking Jason to pay the money he has. And it turns out that Jason is currently not working, and he offers donuts to his wife and children. They rejoice and eat together, and they were sitting watching on the tablet. But the strange thing is that the internet was suddenly cut off. Then the family was out, but when Ross and her brother Garam try to open the door, they can't, so Jason intervenes to open it, but he also can't. And this is a very strange thing. And when Jason goes to try the back door, he also doesn't open. Jason is surprised and thinks his kids did something in the door locks, but they tell him, "We didn't do anything." The whole family disperses and tries to open any door that takes them out of the house, but nothing opens. And even all the windows of the house do not open. And the biggest problem is that the internet is disconnected and the phone network is cut off, although the router is working normally, and KCD still barking without stopping. So Jason decides to break the door with his foot, but when he does that, a force pushes him back. He takes a piece of iron to break the window and succeeds in causing cracks in it, but no matter how much he hits the glass, it does not break completely. And after they stop, the glass heals on its own. Their neighbors draw their attention using the mirror, and Jason's family sees their neighbors locked in the house. They realize that they are not the only ones locked up, and they see their neighbor Susan running in the street, so they try to call her to help them, but she does not hear them, and she discovers that her husband is locked in the house. So she moves to bring help, and Jason's family and the rest have to wait for Susan. At this time, Jason tries to open the garage door by force, but to no avail, and Jason's family spends their time with anything, watching the families around them and what they do. Rishon's family contacts them, and they wonder if the government is the reason. And Jason says to them, "Why is the government doing this?" They say to them, "Maybe because this is safe for us." Another family responds to them and says that the aliens are the reason. And all the families do not know if they are the only locked up, or if all the houses in the world have the same situation. Night comes and nothing has happened. Jason reassures his family and says to them, "We are safe, and we are at home. And the most important thing is that we are together, and we have food, drink, and everything we need." Then Ross sleeps in bed, thinking that the rain is the reason, and that it is the one that closed all the doors of the house. Because today's rain seems strange, but Jason tells her otherwise. This is just rain. Then he goes to his room with his wife Becca, and she is very worried and wants to understand what is happening. And she is very worried about her father and mother and wants to reassure them. Jason calms her down and says to her, "Of course they will be fine like us." And he shows her that he bought a gun. She is shocked that he has never told her before that he bought a gun, telling her that he has been dreaming of a nightmare for a while. And when he wakes up, he does not feel safe at all. "So I bought this gun." Jason didn't feel sleepy, and he keeps pressing the car key from tension. And Becca wakes up from sleep and finds Jason not next to her, and he is trying to open the door using the drill. And after making several holes, he is surprised when he sees that rainwater plugs the holes. He tries to destroy the wall of the house, and Becca comes to see what he is doing, and he says to her, "I can't destroy the wall of the house, because rainwater forms a barrier around the house, but the oxygen reaches us naturally." Becca thinks this crisis will end when the rain stops, but Jason tells her, "Whatever happens, it's not man-made." Becca is more nervous and does not want to convey this tension to the children, and Jason hangs a painting on the wall to hide the hole he made, and sees that there are cracks happening in the house. The next day, Jason and his wife wake up, thinking that what happened was a dream, but when they come down and try to open the door, it doesn't open, and they realize that they will stay at home today. To pass their time, Jason takes out the songs and thousands of his old movies, and Becca passes on to her children the task of cleaning the house. Jason carefully divides the existing food to be enough for them for 2 months, and they must reduce their consumption of water and electricity, because they do not know how long these things will work. They are trying to reassure the children that it is just an ordeal and it will pass. And Cassie D wanted to get out of the house because she used to relieve her need outside the house. So Jason teaches her to do her need anywhere inside the house. and he will clean behind her. On the fourth day, Jason makes his children study as if they were in school, and his goal is to make them never feel the time. Then he teaches them how to clean the fish before they grill. But because they don't have fish, they try this method on Ross games, and Ross and Garam were very fun. After that, a week has passed and they are locked in the house, and the electricity in the house trembles. And Becca is very saving in tomato residues, to the point that she keeps water and seeds that come down from the tomatoes, because they may plant tomato seeds. And Jason is amazed by her intelligence. Then he communicates with his neighbor Max, and knows that Max is a children's dentist, and Max's condition was harder than Jason, because the food he has runs out, and Jason wanted to help him, but there is nothing he can do. Then Ross draws drawings of rain, draws strange creatures she saw in the street, and her face is in the form of rain points, and notices a shadow in the street, but she is distracted by a water point on the net, and plays with it with a pen, and when she looks at the net again, she does not find the shadow. Jason plays songs to dance and change their mood, spend their time watching movies, sports, studying and playing, and Becca grows plants in the kitchen. Jason burns messages that ask him to pay his money, and they use random things to make the Christmas tree, and despite the crisis they are going through, they know how to rejoice and spend a beautiful family time. A month later, Ross sees the shadow again, and tells Garam that he appears every time it rains, but Garam does not believe her, and says to her this may be just an animal. Then the children are tired of eating vegetables, because they eat them every day, but they have to eat them, because this is the food they grow, and the rest of the food is stored for emergencies. Ross tells them that she saw someone on the street, and feels that he is trying to communicate with us, but her family does not believe her words, because simply all people are locked in their homes, and Ross keeps telling them, "I'm sure I've seen someone on the street," but Jason mistakenly makes her angry with her and tells her, this is not the time to hear fairy stories. Becca breaks the tension and gives them Christmas biscuits, but because there is no sugar, Becca had to make it without sugar, and she thinks it tastes bad, but they like her and tell her that it tastes delicious. The couple drink a cigarette and watch their favorite movie, and then sleep on the ground and watch the stars in the sky, and notice that no planes have appeared, and the sky is clear of any pollution. It is clear that the whole world is locked in their homes. The two are happy that they will not have to pay the house premium for this month, and they are surprised when they see a wolf in the garden of the house, and conclude that the outside world has become more for animals than humans. The next day, they give each other Christmas gifts, and originally these gifts are old belongings at home, but they did so in order to maintain the joy of aid and find reasons to be happy for. Ross looks out of the window and sees Max's mirror falling from its length. Jason takes his children away from the window, and Becca sees Max running to his wife, and in the end, it turns out that Max's wife is dead, and Ross is crying for her. Jason then prepares the medicine for Cassie D, but discovers that these are the last existing pills. At night, she wakes up to the sound of rain, doesn't know how to sleep again, plays with her toys, and when the curtain opens, Susan runs to the glass and orders her to open the window. And this is the girl we saw at first, and she went to get help. But now she is holding a knife and bleeding. Ross is terrified and runs out. And all the people of the house wake up to her voice, and they see Susan screaming and ordering them to enter the house, and telling them that all the people are dead, and there is no help coming to you. Jason says to her, "Unfortunately, we won't be able to help you." Suddenly, something pulls it hard, and Jason's family sees strange creatures outside the house, and a very radiant light appears. And after the light disappears, Susan and the creatures disappear. Jason closes the curtains, sees the drawings his daughter drew, and Ross says, "I told you I saw these creatures, but I felt they were cute creatures." Jason says, "These creatures are dangerous to us, and I promise you that no one will hurt you." They decide to all sleep together so that they are safe. The next day, Jason watches his neighbors. In a family that has run out of medicine, and there are two married people who fight, Jason quickly closes the curtains to protect his children and orders them to exercise. Goham goes out being in the house, and Ross goes to hang in the ceiling. This increases the cracks that in the ceiling, and the chimney covers falling from place. Jason enters the chimney and is able to see the sky from him, and Ross comes out with a smart idea, which is to try to get out of the chimney, but Jason tells her that the chimney is too narrow on her. So they agree that Ross climbs the chimney and try to get out of it, and they make a crane with simple tools. Then Ross enters the chimney and starts climbing it, while the cracks increase more, and she could not cross her whole body because of the pipes blocking the road. But she can take her hands out of the chimney, which means that the chimney is not closed, and leaving the house is not impossible, and then they return her inside the house. The family is shocked because Cassie D is sick, because she has heart problems and needs her medicine, and this is why Cassie D will die. Jason makes Becca take the children away and turn on the TV loudly, so that Jason kills Cassie D with a gun to save her of the torment she is in, and his children do not want to hear the sound of shooting. Jason cries after killing Cassie D, and Becca tells him, "You made the right decision." They think about what they will do with the body, and Becca suggests that they burn the body in the chimney, but Jason refuses and decides to keep the body in the refrigerator in case they have to eat dog meat. After cutting the dog into small pieces, he puts the parts in the refrigerator, and the tension and fear increase in the father and mother. Jason sees the wolf in the garden, and the idea of hunting the wolf to eat from his flesh later, and throws from the chimney a part of the dog's body as a bait for the wolf, and indeed the wolf would have eaten it. But he runs away when the world rains. As the weeks go by, the family closes the curtains every time it rains, and moves away from the windows. But Ross forgot her plant at the window, and when she went to get it, the monster saw her and hung on the glass, and they all shut up and do not take out a breath so that the monster does not feel them. And they remain in this position until the monster walks, and Ross is at the peak of terror. After 3 months of imprisonment, Ross finishes her food and she is still hungry. So Jason gives her his food, but she does not accept and wants to eat more. And she was going to the refrigerator, but Becca prevents her, and Jason orders Becca to let Ross open the refrigerator. When you open it, you discover that it is already empty, and Becca opens the cupinettes, and they all come out empty, and it turns out that the food they have has run out. Becca collapses from psychological stress. Garam enters his room and screams. Ross is crying in the pillow, and Jason says to his wife, "This ordeal will definitely end, and we will be able to survive together." But Becca is not optimistic at all, believing that they will die of hunger, and they will see their children die before their eyes. Because Jason is the head of the family, he had to find a solution and bring food to his family. Garam enters them after cleaning the pet fish he had, to present it as food for his father and mother. And the family hugs each other. Jason sees the wolf running after eating the dog's remains. He enters the garage and uses his engineering experience, makes a trap with primitive tools, uses a skateboard and some other tools, puts part of the dog's meat as bait, and throws the bait out of the chimney. The wolf appears and eats a piece of meat, and unfortunately the trap fails, and it works after the wolf walks. So Jason adjusts the trap and tries again, and is able to catch the wolf and pulls it with the rope. But the weight of the wolf was large, and the rope is cut off. Jason stays up late adjusting to the trap, and he hadn't eaten for days, and he refuses to even take food from his wife, because his children are the first to eat. But Becca insisted to eat so that he can concentrate. When he catches the carrot, another idea comes to his mind, and he puts the green paper that was in the carrot in the trap, and throws the trap out of the house. And in this way he lures the squirrel, and he can actually hold the squirrel successfully, and pulls it into the house. Then they grill and eat the squirrel, and although the food was little, the family was at the top of joy. Then they take off the tiles and use the soil to grow vegetables. And Jason gives his family a new hope for life. They still live on birds, rabbits, and other animals, and they keep the fun family atmosphere. So they have everything that makes them alive. Suddenly the electricity is cut off from the entire area, so they light candles and sit on them. 5 years have passed since this crisis, and they are still locked in the house and have never left it. But the children have grown up and become teenagers, and Jason's family is the only one still living in the whole neighborhood. The plants had grown so much and fruit and vegetables had fruit, so they had enough food for them. And Jason made a rainwater purifier, made stronger animal traps, and worked alone when any animal approached them. And outside the house, plants became very widespread, and animals spread in the streets, as if they had taken the place of humans. Ross still maintains her hobby of painting, and Garam plays the piano. As usual, when the world rains, they close the windows, and Becca takes care of Jason and cuts his hair, and remains afraid that the house will collapse because of the cracks that increase. But it is the waterproofing that surrounds the house that keeps the house in tin, and Jason shows his family that he repaired his old car and tells them that effort and hard work do not make anything difficult. Becca and Ross are happy with what Jason did, but Gerham says to his father, "You wasted your time on something useless, because we certainly won't drive." Jason says to him, "We must be ready when we leave the house, and we preferred to live because I fought for you, and we must make projects to keep our mind healthy." But Jaram doesn't like his words and walks. Baker tells her husband that the psychology of our children is bad because they have not been exposed to a normal childhood. He says to her, "My job is to keep you alive." Becca says to him, "But the children are missing the father's spirit, not someone who fights to survive, and I miss my old husband." Then Jason and his sons close the curtains and start collecting rainwater, and Jason orders Ross's to stop drawing monsters outside the house because it endangers them. But Ross refuses to obey these orders because drawing is something she loves and the only need she does and entertains. They keep arguing loudly, their voice attracting one of the monsters at the door. The whole family hides and does not make any sounds, but the water moves towards the lock and opens the lock for the first time in years. And the monster appears and enters the house and revolves around Jason's family, and saliva comes down from his mouth on the water. And what happens is that all the water in the house is polluted. Becca worries about the plants and wants to separate the water from them. And when she moves towards the plants, the monster feels them and chases them, but he does not see them and moves. And Ross is hiding underground, and the monster stabs his claws in the ground, and fortunately does not reach it, and the saliva of the monster kills the plants, and points of saliva fall on Ross's face. Other monsters arrive outside the house. The monster walks and joins her, and Garam, when he sees the door open, quickly goes to him. But Jason stops him because the monsters are still nearby. The door closes alone, and Garam is shocked because he was about to go out. And Ross removes the saliva on her face and realizes that this is the water of the sea. After the rain stops, Jason tries to open the door, but he can't. Then Ross reads a book about sea creatures and realizes that the monster that entered their house is called Kraken, and they can control the rain, and their real country is where we live. Jason says to her, "On the contrary, this is our home." Becca is upset because all the plants are dead, which they have been planting for years, and even all the water has become contaminated. Becca loses hope that they will live, because if they stay 3 days without water, they will die. Jason hopes that the world will rain again, but Becca is worried about the monster if he returns again. The two argue, and their voices are louder against each other because of the psychological pressure they have, and Becca says to him, "We are not living thanks to you. We live thanks to the chimney hole, and if we do not leave the house, we will undoubtedly die." Meanwhile, a squirrel falls into a trap and is pulled home, and Ross grabs him and plays with him, but the squirrel bites her and goes out running, and her father and mother leave their disagreement and run to their daughter. Jason grabs the squirrel and breaks his neck, and Becca worries about her daughter because the bite got sick, and they give her their last clean water, but Becca needs an antibiotic, and the only hope is that they bring the antibiotic from outside the house. Jason searches for the car, tries to break the garage door, tries several times but fails, and the car is destroyed, and he flops in his head and feels very dizzy. Becca takes him out of the car, notices the cracks in the ground, grabs a piece of iron to know the depth of the crack, explores the rest of the cracks, and concludes that the house has moved from its place, and it is permissible for him to find a way out of the house. He breaks the tiles in the bathroom to make a sewage opening, and they can use sanitation to get to Max's house, and because he is a dentist, he certainly has an antibiotic. But the tube was tight for Jason, so Becca volunteers to do this task, and they give her a camera so that they know how to communicate with each other, and it moves in the sewerage and reaches a dead end by a wall, but it turns out that the wall is broken, and she can easily drop the wall. But sending the camera is cut off from it, and Jason is crazy, and he wants to break the tiles to reach it. But Gerham sees from the window that Becca has reached Max's house. Jason comes to see her and reassure her, and Becca finds Max's house very moldy, part of Max's mirror decomposed, and the house looks like it was soaked in water. Unfortunately, it's starting to rain, and Becca doesn't take care that there's a monster appearing in the house, and she's looking for the antibiotic until she finds it. Jason orders her to return quickly, feeling the presence of the monster, so she moves very carefully, goes down to the sewer that is filled with rainwater, and screams loudly when the monster appears behind her, but it turns out to be Max's body. Unfortunately, her loud voice attracts the attention of the monster. Vika runs out without much thought, reaches the sewer pipe of her house, and grabs the rope to pull her, but the monster is coming behind her, and she shoots him, but he is not affected. In the last second, they pull Baker before the monster kills her, and the monster comes out behind her, but Jason breaks the wall and blocks the sewer entrance, and the monster can't get out of the wreckage. Then they give the antibiotic to Ross, and her condition gets better and she's fine. Becca tells Jason that the gun fell from her in the sewerage, and Jason says to her, "The monsters knew that we were here, Of course they will come to kill us, but they don't know how many of us. So I will stand up and fight them, and you take the children and go up and hide above, and no matter how much you hear me in pain, don't go down until the rain stops." But Gerim refuses and says to him, "This is not a life. This is how we try to survive, and we will all fight together. And after we overcome them, we will go out the door, and we will take advantage of any opportunity to escape from home." Becca Gerham agrees with his words, because life no longer exists in this house, and they must try to escape, and Jason is forced to agree, and they open the curtains to attract monsters here, make some weapons for this war, and make a plan, which is to lure the monsters into the garage, and then run away, set certain traps, and intend that this will be their last day at home. After all the things are ready, they look at the sky and find that the storm today is very severe, and the water comes out strongly from the bathrooms, comes down from the chimney violently and pushes Jason away, and the house is filled with water in seconds. Becca looks out the window and sees the monster approaching, and then enters the house, and Becca throws a bomb at him, but he descends into the water and extinguishes himself, and moves in the water faster than normal. Jason tries to shoot him with the hub, but he fails, and the monster hits him and drops him into the water. Jason floats and joins his family, and the water level is very high. They must go upstairs. But Gerim goes down to the water first to retrieve the hook, and the water penetrates everywhere in the house and passes through the cracks. While Gerim feels that the monster is approaching him, so he silences himself to be safe. The family makes a hole in the ceiling, and they pull Gerim from below, but the monster reaches them from the same hole, attacks them with his sensors, and Jason responds to him and hits him with a hammer. And then they all go to another room, but the water fills this room, so they all stuffy their breath, and when the monster reaches them, they pull a rope connected to the hook. Jason hits the hook on the monster, and the second side of the rope is connected to the car, and the car pulls the monster to it, and all this water pressure expands the cracks and cracks more. So the water level drops, and the family goes down to the floor below, and they try to open the door, but it also does not open. The monster is hanging on the ladder. Jason grabs a knife and threatens the monster that he will open the door, otherwise he will kill him, and the monster is in great pain. And Ross stops her father and tells him, "If the monster dies, we will never be able to go out." Jason thinks of his daughter's words when she said to him, "The monster I saw was gentle," and he puts all his hopes that the monster will save them. And he had no other solution, so he is forced to cut the rope and free the monster, and throws the knife. The monster decides to help them, opens the door, and finally they leave the house after 5 years of imprisonment. There are many monsters that hedge them, but the monster that was in the house comes out and prevents them. Then Jason's family sees the house collapse and sink, leaving behind a big hole. When the sun rises, the family goes out and watches the monsters as they return to the sea, and they find the boat, and its condition was good. So they ride on it and move with it, and feel free after the prison in which they were locked, and mercy to the beast is what made them free. And they are surprised that there are people living, communicating with them via radio. And here we have reached the end of the film. Don't forget to like if you like the video, and subscribe to the channel if you like this type of videos and you want it to continue.